This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You know what? I say this every time, but you are actually the one who we invite back the most of all of them. This is your fourth time back.
It is.
We can have an analysis on why that is. It could be a lengthy one. The short version is, you're a cool guy.
Thank you. And we just keep doing new things, right?
Exactly. And you and your team, you're doing some pretty cool stuff.
Yes.
So this episode is, I'd like us to just take us back to where we started this year, because you were then in an episode where you shared with us, you know, the plans for this year. And we talked about your thinking around personalizing employee experience. And then as we were having that conversation, there were a few cool stuff that was going to be launched in the people analytics space. And clearly I said, okay, let's see how this year progresses. We'll invite you back and you share those learnings and launches with us, right?
Yep.
So we're super excited. I am very excited.
Yeah, me too.
Good. And I remember now when we were talking last time about how you view and describe employee experience and how you personalize that in Spotify, you had such a great way of explaining that. So
memory test.
I will kindly ask you, for the viewers and the listeners, to explain to us, what is that and how do you do that?
Yeah, so we talked about bricks and cement and concrete in between, didn't we?
Yes.
The brief overview of it is, so if we think of every part of HR, so policy, processes, tools, things we have, if they're the bricks, the experience is the cement between all of that. And the strength of that cement is, and the strength of the experience, is how solid that whole structure is. So that's how we kind of think about an employee experience. Where we saw the challenge with it is that it's often not particularly personalized. So if you think traditionally, it's a blanket approach for everything. So all employees go into a single point, they interact with a single platform. But it's with the lack of personalization, your ability to navigate that is how well you as a user can potentially understand that platform. So I think the analogy I gave you is if we both took out our Spotify apps.
Yes.
And unless we had remarkably overlapping taste in music and very, very similar usage, your Spotify is optimized for you and mine's optimized for me. Now, what we make the argument for is that a employee's journey or experience at a company is also nuanced.
True.
So someone who's starting in our HR function is very different from someone starting in our product and tech. And what we think is the experience should be reflective of that. But to do that, you have to be able to personalize it.
True.
So that was at a very high level where we pitched it.
Excellent. And then you mentioned that there was this, on this particular topic, there was going to be, you were working on some cool stuff. There was going to be a huge launch.
Yes.
You mentioned that, but that's basically where we left it.
We're back to the start, why you invite me back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, I'll invite you back later this year, and here we are. What has happened?
Yeah, so I think Katarina gave it quite the setup on the on a previous one. So we've launched this week, a new platform called Bounce. So I'll need to take a step back. So this will be quite a long answer, so bear with me.
Sure.
What Bounce is something entirely new. So it doesn't exist in the current landscape. So to set some context, we'll start with a name, and we'll kind of go from.
I just love the name.
Go from there, thank you. It's so Bounce, or bouncing audio, as it's referred to, is this idea of very simply taking all the various musical effects, condensing them all down and exporting them into one file. So a bit boring, but the idea of taking lots of things into one singular thing. Now, the challenge with Bounce is because it doesn't exist. To explain what it is actually quite difficult, because what happens is that to explain something new, we often look for things that we already know.
That are similar to a previous experience, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if I described Bounce as an intranet, the fact I've just said intranet, you've already gone immediately in your head what an intranet is. And no one's ever got excited when they hear an internet.
Right.
But this idea of a single place to go, lots of things all interacting with one another. I could say it's an employee experience platform. There's been quite a lot of them recently, so bringing lots of different apps in a single place to do things. Or I could describe it as a comms platform, but that's quite a singular use case. So the reality bounces all of those things, but none of them at the same time.
Right.
So it's a completely new type of digital workplace platform. So the best analogy we've got for this, or our way we explain this internally, is our last investor day, we introduced this idea of the Spotify machine. And what that machine was, and very briefly, I'll do a paraphrase of that, was it's formed of 3 horizontal layers. So we have a platform layer, which is all the Spotify tech. We have our experience layer, which is all the various surfaces and just the consistent UI and feel of the platform. And then we've got personalization, which is how we decide who sees what. Now, what those 3 horizontals do is they act as a big synchronization function. Now, so if you've got those 3 horizontals, now our verticals are music, podcasts, and just as of yesterday, audiobooks.
Audiobooks, exactly.
Now, what that synchronization function does is it churns through all of the complexity in those different content types. So from a design perspective, of course, it'd be much easier to build a single app for music, podcasts, and audiobooks because you can optimize it for that particular use case. But we don't, and we churn through all of that complexity with those functions so that doesn't end up with a user at the end. So what you're left with in a Spotify app is 3 massively different content types that all work harmoniously, and the user experience feels like they were designed to live together.
Right.
Now that content gets the benefit from all the platforms, so our ubiquity, our personalization, etc. So it's this kind of self-fulfilling wheel. So Bounce is effectively that, but with workplace content. So we have a platform layer, connects to any of our internal systems, can consume information from those systems, but can also write and edit in them. So to give you a simple example, if you think of contact details in your HR platform, we can consume the data points or the information we needed from that form, but then we can then write it in Bounce. It then writes it automatically in that system with them never having to go to that system. So we've got a very powerful integration layer. Experience layer, so lots of different content types, but all live together on the same platform. So if you think of an HR platform, a knowledge platform, and a comms platform, and think from experience traditionally, when's picking up?
Yes.
How different those platforms are and how different the user experience is. If you imagine for a second that they were all the same user experience. And then the last one is, the real kicker is the personalization layer.
Right.
So personalization's powered by Disco. So we take all the information we know about our employees and use that to personalize content. And I don't mean in sort of like a superficial way, like, oh, you're part of business A and you're part of business B. I mean, every single workplace content optimized, personalized for every single user. So you can think of that for any part of the employee journey, from pre-boarding, onboarding, to coming back from parental leave, to becoming a manager for the first time, to having an equity grant. It's like the list is literally endless.
Right.
But when you log into the platform, the theory would be that you'd have your version and I would have mine. So the kind of way we think of it, if you just take onboarding as an example, is what Bounce has now is you no longer go through like an onboarding experience. If 2 employees started on the same day, they go through their onboarding experience.
Fantastic.
So that's
Bounce.
That's Bounce.
So it's for the employees,
Yes.
obviously. It's for, obviously enhancing the employee experience, making it more personal. But I'm assuming also making life a bit easier for the HR team.
Massively, massively. Yeah. So one of the big that experience layer I was talking about is often what you find with particular platforms is you're constrained by their development roadmaps, and you're constrained by sometimes their system limitations.
Yeah.
So if you think of it as, if you have a particular, think of an example, if you go back to the contact details before, all that platform's actually interested in is the data points. But let's say you want to change that and do something with it, but you couldn't. What this allows us to do is, well, you only need the data points. So if we can find a way of capturing those data points, but then we have complete freedom with what we can do with the experience side of it, well, then we can optimize beyond that. So what you traditionally find is with people doing low-level sort of transactional things is it's often because the system just can't support it.
True.
So what this allows us to do is break all of that away. So whether it's particular information gathering, whether it's think of examples off the top of my head now. The information gathering pieces that we have, whether we're organising particular content that goes, how we arrange particular events, etc. So it's an awfully long list, but what this allows us to do is to really look at them and challenge them in a different way.
Right. So, and you said that, I mean, this is so, it's super cool. And you mentioned it when we started the conversation. This doesn't exist anywhere in the market, right?
No. So and people watching this will probably challenge me and go, well, yes, it does. And so the idea of having a single place for it to go is not new. We use the word intranet. That's been done for decades.
Yeah.
There's lots of employee experience platforms. So people would say, bring in lots of different apps together and being able to do that in a single, but that's not new either. In the most humble way this can be said, I just think we've done it better. But the one thing that no one is doing is our personalization.
True.
And it's probably why no one would traditionally think of a people analytics team building an employee experience platform. It's not an obvious jump for people to make. The reality is we're the only team who can, because the information and data and how we look at it is a unique perspective that not many teams have the opportunity to do.
Right.
So the fact that we can so radically personalize it we're only able to do that because we understand the information.
True. In
the detail that we do.
True.
So, like I say, some were challenged. Well, there are those platforms. The personalization, absolutely not.
Isn't there?
Yeah, it's absolutely not.
And the way that you connect everything.
Exactly.
So okay.
Makes sense?
It does, and I'm trying to grasp it. And as always, when I listen to you, my follow-up question is, when can I try it?
Yeah.
When can it be personalized to me? But then I realize I'm not an employee of Spotify. So, but anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you launched it basically yesterday.
Monday.
Okay. A few days ago. So this obviously requires that I invite you back for another session to
See, this is why you invite me back often.
Yes. To hear how did the launch go? What was the perception? What is the feedback? What are the tweaks that you obviously maybe need to do?
Yeah.
But so that's for the follow-up session. But my question is now, what do you expect to solve for the employee?
Yeah, so I think the challenges we face aren't unique for Spotify. Most people have them, but we have lots of different platforms, lots of different systems that people have to go to. So the initial launch is focused on pre-boarding and onboarding.
Yeah.
We launch in Sweden and the UK initially, then we'll get to the rest of the world as we go. So first benefit for an employee is we don't actually have a pre-boarding experience as such at the moment.
So you didn't. You don't.
Well,
I thought you did.
No, if you think of it, what I mean by that, in the sense of, so you'll have your login details, we'll send you an email, welcome to Spotify and things,
right.
But we're, again, back to my point, we're limited with how much of an experience we can make that from a system perspective.
Yeah.
You don't have Spotify login credentials to see our systems, for example,
right.
before you started working. So we've solved some of those technical challenges now, so we can really boost up, like, you sign your contract to join Spotify, you're pretty happy, you're pretty
yes.
pumped.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if you have a platform that builds on that enthusiasm versus I'll wait 3 months or 6 months or whatever your time might be to kind of have. So there's a benefit just of really feeling like when you start day one, you're really well prepped and you know what's coming, so how we share information. When from day one as like new boarders coming on, like it is information overload, like as anyone knows for a new job, and Spotify is no different. But we then, so you have the information to, but you've then got the complexity and the challenge of lots of different systems and where do I go, and if I could read something here or do I read something there.
True.
So if you're an employee, you go one place, I can do all the tasks I need to do, I can read everything that I need to read about things, and we can, that's kind of my point with, so if I take a really, like a very simple example of things, when you first log into Bounce, you'll have a video message from the leader of the business that you sit in. Really small touch, but has quite a big impact on it. You're not expecting it.
True.
So if I was logging in and I've got a welcome message from Daniel, it's not something I'm expecting from a platform that I'm logging into. But it just means we can really optimize it. When you start on day one, we've all got tasks to do, which can be a pain. I can do that simply in a really nice intuitive UI. I don't have to go back and forward on things. I can really start to understand the business, what is everything called, how does the business look, who leads what part of the business, etc. And the problem with it is when people look at them, they don't realize how big an impact those things have. They seem really small. Yeah, but you just go and read that platform, or you just go and read it there. It's kind of like, yeah, but when it's like that, it's hugely disjointed. And the impact as an employee is like, we've read the feedback. Yeah, it's a bit overwhelming. There's so many things to go. We don't know where to go. So from an employee perspective, is it allows us to create these experiences for them where it's fundamentally, from a business point of view, they can get on with what we want them to be getting on with, which is their job, not trying to find information and doing admin
trying
tasks.
To navigate in the landscape of organization and processes and policies and whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's back to this kind of idea of the kind of balance of bringing lots of things into one. It's you want an optimized experience. Back to the Spotify analogy is, yes, it's great having access to all music content, but we don't want to sit and sift through every single song. We want that personalization, and that's what we're trying to bring with Bounce, which is just very, very different. People aren't thinking it in these ways, and I could literally list 10 different examples of things of. You take something like an equity selection right now, which again can feel like quite an admin task. You go in, you make your selections, you submit it. Wouldn't it be great if there's just a whole experience around that? To celebrate the fact you have it, but then to really feel like you've had your hand held. Parental leave's another one that we hear often about. You've been out of the business for 6 months, a year sometimes. You come back day one. Wouldn't it be great? You logged into a platform. Here's everything you missed. Here's the company news you had. Here's all the tasks you have to do. It's the challenge with it is it isn't. None of this is kind of like the task which you're talking about. It's not rocket science, but what Bounce does it just makes it super, super convenient.
Right.
And you kind of get in. You really feel like you've covered everything off. We've done it. But what's the kind of the beauty of the platform is that we haven't built something for returning parents. So back to my point before is that if I was to come back on parental leave and you just become a manager, we go into the same thing and we've got a complete experience built around that particular thing. And that's what makes it completely unique.
Right.
It's not you're not going to go to a place in the employee handbook and read a section around welcome, like return to work. Right. Yes, there's the element to there, but you can do so much more with that.
Of course.
So how do you create, and we've obviously got our work from anywhere, and digital presence is super important these days, but how can you create a digital platform that's reflective of your culture?
Yeah.
Right now we don't have one. Bounce is that first step into doing it. That we want something where people join Spotify, they come to a platform and go, this feels like Spotify.
Exactly.
Not, this feels like we bought something off the shelf and we're doing our best with it.
Exactly. Because you built it yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, groundbreaking.
Yeah, this of all the things we've done, this is our this has been our biggest build, been our most complex, but I think our most ambitious is what we've gone after.
Yeah. What has been the biggest challenge? Apart from the obvious one, connecting everything.
Yeah, the connecting everything had its the nuances of being a company that operates in other countries that we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's lots of complexities in each of those sort of processes. So that's just we've got unpick years of work, like years of like patches and fixes and things that we've kind of done to kind of start the thing. So like the team have just done really a phenomenal job. I get to come and talk about this and make it all sound. The amount of work they've put into it is incredible.
Yeah, one can imagine.
But yeah, so I think it's that. But I think we've got a really clear vision of what we want it to be, which helps.
Yeah, always does, right?
Yeah, I think so. And we know what the platform. We know how the platform can grow. I can already tell you how the platform's going to look in a year's time. We know what our roadmap is. We know how we're going to kind of boost these things up. But yeah, just getting into all of just the detail and unpicking literally all of our processes and going through them, and yeah, it's been a journey.
Absolutely fantastic. But you launched it now.
We've launched it, yeah.
Yeah, you launched it, and then any short comments, feedbacks from the employees so far?
No, so it's kind of like I say,
super fresh, right?
Super fresh, yeah. So I think it's it's just gonna be 2 markets to begin with.
Right.
So that's the other.
That's the follow up.
That's just, yeah. Like say, like even so, you take something simple as like someone goes, oh, when you launch into the US, like the US is like 50 countries.
Exactly.
Like from an employment perspective, like they're all different. So yeah, so it's super fresh. But everyone who's seen the platform had a demo of it and things. The feedback's been super positive. Yeah. So yeah, just excited to get out there now.
Of course. You delivered the baby.
Yes.
It's there. Okay. So, and then, I always ask the same question because you're doing all of the things that you're doing in the HR tech space at Spotify is obviously things that other companies are also struggling with, right? So yeah, I typically ask you, when do you actually go to market with this? When do you sell the things that you do so that the rest of the world can enjoy it?
I always ask you to ask the boss. So
yeah, Katarina. Yeah, okay, we'll ask her again.
Yeah. No, but I think what we try to do is, I think the mindset we have as a team, what we're trying to do is, yes, we build, like Spotify is always the ultimate beneficiary of what we build.
Yeah.
But the challenge we take on with this is that if it's not to become a kind of Frankenstein in a few years' time, we have to come at it from a true product perspective of, if we wanted to take this external. It's not whether we have the ambition to or not. How do we build platforms that you can take somewhere different? That's what I'm saying, that it makes us different in the focus that we have. It's quite easy to build platforms for companies, specialize, really tailor them, really specialize them for that company. But that is a short fix.
Yeah.
Fast forward 5 years and you get all sorts of bother. So that's been the pleasure with Bounce and the things we've done with Disco and Scout and otherwise, is that we're coming up with big problems, and how do you fix them with a solution that could work for everybody?
True.
Obviously, Spotify's customer number one, but that's how we approach it from a sort of philosophical angle.
Of course, and you should, right? You work at Spotify. This is where you build those cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, because I'm jealous. And I'm sure there are others who are as well. But in any case, we get the opportunity to invite you back, and you share, how the launch went, what was the feedback. I think, again, it's so inspiring to listen to you, Gary, and the work that you do. So thank you for making me jealous and for sharing.
Pleasure.
And looking forward to welcoming you back.
No, pleasure.
And
thanks.
good luck with the rest of the launch.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. And then the three things
to
end.
Yeah, exactly.
Shall we?
We shall.
Okay.
We shall.
You remember?
Yeah, although Katarina went off piece last time, didn't she? Just started making stuff up.
And I did as well. Okay, let's try.
No problem.
Yeah.
So stay safe, stay strong, stay active. Eat a medallion.
Eat the medallion. Like a pro. He is. Gary Monroe. So they want us, Gary.
We're ready.
To have a very open chest.
I think we had this last time. It was open your chest and pretend you like each other. I think it was the two. Was our instruction last time.
Maybe I should join the dark side. Maybe I should try.
Well, why not?
Yeah, learn something.
Yeah.
I mean, the lingo. I'm like, I look like a question
I'll
mark.
say that's the hardest thing when you.
Is this the sound?
Yeah, that's the sound.
Can you take it off then later on? We'll see. Okay, but this is Stockholm in motion, basically. Yeah.
I think the wind is going to be the main problem.
Okay. Let's see if
It's okay, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look absolutely smashing.
I wasn't worried about look. It was more the sound.
You should. Oh, yeah.
It's good.
Okay, good. So, she has a.
I've got a rogue can.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Ready?
Great.
Let's do it.